Hope, and welcome to week 7 of Crafty Hope Prompts. If you are new here, I'm going to explain what all this is, and if you're returning, thank you so much. So Crafty Hope Prompts is a challenge I created for myself, but I have opened it up for anybody else that wants to play along any way they wish. Basically, I decided that when I realized that there are 52 cards in a deck and 52 weeks in a year, that is the perfect opportunity to build a prompt deck. But I didn't want to just have one prompt a week. I'm having 3. So I made a list of 156 prompts that I printed out, cut out, and put into this jar. So each Monday I am drawing the 3 prompts for the week, using those prompts to alter one of these playing cards and adding those prompts to the card so I can use these prompts later. That's part 1. Part 2, later in the week, I take those same 3 prompts and do another project. I've done tags a couple times. I have done art journal and junk journal pages. I've made a couple shadow boxes. Who knows what else I might make. I'm considering some canvases and altering, I've talked about it for a while, altering this tin can. I don't know. We'll see where this year-long journey takes me. You are welcome to play along. I have the full list of 156 prompts below. If you just want to print those out and draw your own prompts, do that. You can use my prompts and alter your own playing card or some other art journal or mixed media art of some kind. Any way you want to play, go for it. I encourage you, you can start now. You don't have to also be on week 7. You don't have to worry about catching up. Just play. This is about taking some of the things we have in our stash and using them and finding new ways to use them and getting excited about them. I know that this past week with the watercolor markers, I tried a couple new things I haven't done before with those, and so I might be using those a little bit more because if you saw that video, I'll put a link up here. Some of mine have dried out because I haven't been using them, but I really enjoyed the couple ways I used them both on this card and on the tags I made. So it's time to draw some new prompts and make a new card for week 7. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put up the first 6 weeks, y'all, and I'm loving these cards. They are fabulous, and they're so, I can go on and on. I'm going to put them aside and instead open my jar and draw our 3 prompts. And I'll go over different, if you don't have things that I draw, I'll give you some alternatives. And if you have other ideas for other people, leave it below in the comments. Anything I don't mention that you think might work for somebody else. All right, I've got the first one, and it is black pen. Y'all, that should be so easy. I don't even know that I need to go into other things you could use. Everybody has a black pen, whether it is a ballpoint or a roller ball or a permanent or a brush pen. Just any kind of black pen will work. I don't, one of my favorite things are these V5 Pilot black pens. Use that. Just a black pen. A gel pen works. Even a paint pen would be great. So, black pen. Easy peasy. All right. Next is texture stamp. Woo! Y'all, I love my texture stamps. Now, this could be, it's pretty straightforward. For me, a texture stamp is anything that doesn't have like a recognizable like image on it. But you could make anything with a recognizable image a texture stamp by layering it in different ways, turning it. You can make a texture stamp out of using a bunch of letter stamps and stamping that, and just to add texture, not as the actual image of the item. I have both hand carved stamps and block stamps and things like that that would work great. If you just have, like I said, some letter stamps or word stamps, layer them, turn them, make them just be texture and not your focal image. That's all that is. Easy. All right, 2 easy things, y'all. Ooh. All right, let's see. Next one, number 3 is, I drew this before, 2 or more stencils. So that's going to be interesting with the texture stamp because that's going to be quite a bit of depth of texture there. I could use one of my stencils as a focal image if I've got one, but I want to bring in more than one stencil in this. as I mentioned when I had the stencils, I'll put a link up here to the one that had stencils where I talked about it. If you don't have stencils, take a piece of cardstock or construction paper, or not construction paper, something a little bit thicker, cardstock or poster board or something like that, and use scissors or an X-Acto knife to just cut something out. And you can make your own stencil that way. You can use stencils for that you get to make like signs and stuff at the dollar store. That's a stencil. So stencil's pretty easy. We're gonna combine these. I'm gonna go gather some things and then we're gonna alter this card. I am back with my very messy desk of supplies. And we're gonna see what I'm gonna tell you what I have. And then we're gonna get to work. I have a general idea of what I might make, but that's only based on some of the things I've chosen. So here's my card. I have, for black pen, y'all, I have more black pens I know what to do with. So I've got a Micron, a couple of Sharpie. One is a roller ball and one is a gel. I've got a like ultra fine 0.3 pen and then a, what is this, a food ball pen. But I've got jars and containers of loads more depending on what I decide to do. Then I need texture stamps. So I have this massive, it's not massive, but I have this gallon-sized zip bag full of what I consider texture stamps. These are just the cling stamp ones. I have more ones, mounted ones elsewhere, as well as my own carved ones elsewhere. So, but for the most part, based on what else I've picked out, I think I'm probably going to use this wood grain one. I think this is a Bow Bunny stamp. And then for 2 or more stencils, I've picked out a few. So I remembered I had this little set here that I haven't even opened. It's a folk art set. I think I got it at Michael's, but y'all, it's got fairies and mushrooms and a little fairy door. So I think I'm probably going to use the mushrooms. That's just the idea. But I've also picked out this because I need a second one. I've picked out this Sean Petite stencil I may use. I kind of like the leaves that are on here and I've never used those, so I may use those. But I also have this one, which is it a Crafter's Workshop? I think it's a Crafter's Workshop stencil. So I've got that. I've got some papers, more scratch papers. I've got several different paints picked out, along with a stencil brush and some cosmetic sponges. And yeah, we're gonna get down. I'm delaying at this point, so I'm gonna pick up my prompts and put them off to the side so I don't lose them, because we'll have to put them on the card somehow. So I'm gonna start. The first thing I'm doing is adding a layer of paper to both sides of my card. These playing cards are super slick, and so most things aren't going to stick to them, so I like to start with just some collage. I'm using matte gel medium to put that down just because it's quick and easy. I could have probably used Mod Podge, but whatever. And I'm trimming this down. I'm going to do this on both sides. I could collage several little sheets, but because I knew I was going to add the stenciling, I kind of wanted a flat surface. I didn't want anything with a lot of texture to it where things can get a little, I don't know, sketchy. Now, if you don't want to start with a layer of paper on your cards, or if you're doing cards, you can always sand them down and gesso them. Those are things I've done before with altered playing cards. And I don't know, I like how quick and easy it is to just add some paper to it. It's much faster than trying to sand down cards and then wait for gesso to dry, because who's got time for that? I don't. I'm trying to make these cards as quick as I can. This one, I don't know, it got away from me. It took a bit longer than I expected, especially since I had an idea of what I wanted to do, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much thought into these, but I'm enjoying it, and that's kind of the whole purpose of this challenge. So I'm opening up that little stencil set I have, and pulling out the mushroom ones. And I've got, like I said, several different craft acrylic paints. Y'all, this one, oh my gosh, it's probably got to be at least 20 years old. And I love the color. I haven't been able to find that color. This is Delta Dream Coat, I think is the brand. and I think the color's tomato spice or something like that. But it's, yeah, I didn't mean to get that much out of there, but yeah, we're gonna work with it. So I decided to go ahead and use for this one my cosmetic sponge. These just come from like the dollar store, or actually the Dollar Tree ones have gotten pretty, I don't know, flimsy, and I don't like them. The newer ones, since the pandemic and supply issues and all of that, the ones they've made are not as quality. So I've had to start buying them at the grocery store for just a little bit more. But I'm using that red and just going in the tops of my little toadstools there. And I decided, since I wanted that, make sure that stencil doesn't move, to go ahead and just tape it down a little bit onto that bit of dictionary text with some washi tape. And then I'm going to use some white, and this is just, I don't even know, it's some white paint from Michaels. Y'all, these craft paints, they're not important. I just kind of grabbed colors that I thought I'd like. If you do want to know what they are, I guess ask me, because I probably won't list them below. So I start by trying to go in to do like the stem and the underneath, the gills of the mushrooms. And it really doesn't show up. So I'm going to grab this thing. I think it's a Claudine Helmuth one I bought at Tuesday Morning forever ago. So I'm trying to use up some of these craft paints, so maybe I can invest in some nicer paints at some point. But I thought maybe if I use that beigey color, it would show up a little bit more on the dictionary paper, and it kind of doesn't. So once I get this down, I'm going to put it aside to dry. And I overstepped my bounds there. Okay, so I go back over with that red, and I love that red. It's kind of the perfect red. So you see, I'm looking at that and like, okay, I'll come back to it. And so I'm going to work on my second stencil, which is this Sean Petit Mums stencil. And I grabbed a green and a yellowish, kind of a mustardy yellow paint that I am going to use that stencil brush. This is from the Dollar Tree, and I've never used it before, so I thought, well, let's try this on my card. I'm going to use some of the things that are in my stash. That's kind of the point of this project for me, is to actually try techniques and materials and supplies and tools that I have that I never touch. So I'm going for it. And I'm getting some leaves down. I wanted this to feel very like woodsy, fall, autumn, leaves falling. So I am putting those down. And I'm enjoying that whole process. And I decide here that I need some more colors, more than just that green and yellow. It didn't feel quite fall enough. So I grabbed this brown, I don't know, it's one of the siennas. And I'm going to mix that a little bit with the yellow, and I'm moving my stencil, moving my card, getting these in different directions and getting a variety of colors as well. And I'm going to bring that red back in just a second too, since I had so much of it, to try to add another color on here also. But y'all, look how neat that looks. I'm really happy with this. Though in the end you don't completely notice that they're leaves. And there I used one of the larger ones. I didn't mean to use one of the larger leaves. But I've got so much in that little space on my messy desk that, yeah. But look, you can kind of tell they're leaves, and it's fall colors. And so I was digging it. I covered up most of the white space because the paper that I was using, y'all, is from it's a book. I mean, the paper is really nice and thick, but it's like medical reference maybe for childhood illnesses, and so it's got words on it that are not great to look at. So I try to cover up as much of that as I can. And I'm bringing my first black pen in. This is one of the Micron, I think is what they're called. And this is the 01. So it's super thin at point that I am going in my stencil and tracing the shape of the stems here, because the colors I put down aren't going to show up. And I really wanted them to be like that white, color that you see with these typical red mushrooms. I can't think what they're called, the red ones with the white spots on them. I know they have a name. I don't know. So I'm just tracing that and I'm having a really hard time seeing it, but I'm just, in a second, I'll hold it up and look. Well, maybe I already did that. So I'm just going around all that. And like I said, this is the first black pen I'm bringing into this. And yeah, so, and I knew I was going to make those dots, but I didn't want to do it on my stencil. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this up. Some of the paper does tear because that dictionary paper is super thin, but it's okay. Yeah, oh, and some of the paint stuck to it too, but I was just really careful to peel that up. All right, so now I'm going to take my Sharpie paint pen in white and just make some dots on all three of these, just kind of random. I wanted them to feel organic and random. I probably should have made some smaller ones too, but y'all, like I said, this is supposed to be just a quick little project. Somewhere in there, I realized I had not used my texture stamp, which is what I had intended to do first before I put the leaves down. So it would be like the leaves were falling in front of the trees, but that's okay. I'm doing it now. So I'm using that Jet Black Stays On ink pad just like I did last week and putting that straight onto my card. And since I haven't started on the other side of my card, I'm going to go ahead and put the Stays On down first there. So it can, I have it at least first on one side of these cards. So I'll get that all down. And that is the only texture stamp I'm actually going to use in this. So I definitely want to play with texture stamps a little bit more when I do my project later this week. And we'll see what happens. I've got aspirations to use some of my hand carved stamps and distress oxides. So I do love that. So now I'm going to fussy cut all three of these mushrooms. I'm going to cut some of that out because I know y'all don't want to watch me fussy cut. So here I've got my little detail scissors and I am starting to do that. And I cut two of them out. The third one I'll get to in a little bit because that'll be on my other side. With these cards, I am doing one side that is decorative using the prompts, and then the other side I'm considering my functional side with the prompts on them, if that makes sense. So it's like a playing card where one side's pretty and the other side has your information. So I decided to go ahead and edge up this card and bring that red into it a little bit more using some Distress Oxide and Candied Apple. And once I got it inked up, I am just using a wet paintbrush to kind of make it bleed a little and show up a bit more. So I'm going to dry that super quick because I used quite a bit of water on there. And now I'm trying to arrange my couple little stenciled mushrooms. So I'll grab my Oohoo glue stick and just stick those down on here. Just like that. I'm trying not to get them too messy because, y'all, I get messy fingers. And then when I lay things out, I rub the messiness all over it. See how messy my fingers are? So I grabbed a black pen that I really enjoy using. It is also a Dollar Tree pen. It's one of their ink rollerball INC rollerball pens. And I have found that it is, first off, super juicy. And secondly, if you go in pretty quickly with a wet paintbrush on top of the ink, it bleeds beautifully. So that's what I'm doing with these. Yeah, I'm just gave it a little bit of shadow. And then I wanted to add a sentiment. So I'm grabbing the margin of part of that dictionary paper that was there and just kind of tearing it down. And I knew I was going to bring black pen in again and write out a sentiment. This is a Pentel brush pen that I rarely use because I find it too precious for some crazy reason. So yeah. And I'm writing the word thrive. And I don't know why, but something about how mushrooms thrive on decay and doesn't matter, in different environments and that kind of thing. So I don't know, something like that. That I decide, yeah, that's what I'm going to put on there. And I'm deciding where to put it and what I'm going to do. And I knew at this point that I was using up a lot of time. I don't usually stencil and that, yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to try to think of other ways I can use two stencils for this week's project, but we'll see. we'll see what I come up with. I'm tempted to just layer a couple stencils on a jelly plate, but that seems too easy, like cheating somehow. I don't know. So you saw I put a little bit more of that Dollar Tree pen on underneath my Thrive and flipped over my card, and we're gonna do a little bit of stenciling on the other side. And again, I'm using that same Sean Petite stencil and the same colors. I'm not going to put it near as thick on this side as I did the other side, but I have my texture stamp already down, and here comes, well, stencil number 2, I guess, since I've already got my mushroom off to the side there on the left. But this was fun. I kind of liked using the stencil brush. I've told y'all a second ago that it's not a tool I often use. So that was, it works better than I thought. And while I was doing it, I thought, if I'm going to explore stencils, that maybe I ought to think about trying to use some of my Distress Oxides or other stamp pads through a stencil. That's not something I often do, but that may be one of the prompts I've got on my prompt list. I'm not sure. There's all kinds of stuff on that prompt list, y'all. All right, I think this is about where I decide to leave it, that you can't see a lot of the words that are on there. And I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut this little mushroom. I was having trouble with my scissors. And then just glue it down as well. I'm going to stick it there on the right side on the bottom corner. And then I'm going to start on with my prompts, I think. Oh, I'm going to accent it also with that cheap black pen. And I got too much water there on that right side. I'll have to blot it up here in a second. Yeah, because it was just too much water. And so I'll do that again. And I'm going to start on my words. I can't remember how much I kept of this in there because I like to add my prompts onto one side of this. And I've got that piece of dictionary paper sitting there. So I'm going to cut my words down so they don't take up too much room and just glue them each onto that dictionary paper. And that kind of, because I've got the dictionary paper with the mushroom, this is that same dictionary paper, and it kind of makes it cohesive. All right, so those are glued down, and I'm going to cut them down further just so that each of these has a bit of a frame of that dictionary paper. Just a little accent, something different, instead of just sticking them down like I have on some of my other cards. Got to make it a little bit pretty. Oh, I don't know if y'all can hear the dog, y'all. Sorry. Somebody's driving down our street. She's got to let us know about it. All right, so those are there, and I got real. When I cut, I cannot cut a straight line to save my life. I don't know what it is. Oh, and I had taken a picture of the order of the what I had drawn just to make sure I keep them in the order I drew them. That's important to me for later use, that they are in the same order. So I realized, and I had to move that one because I realized that the 2 more stencils one is super long. So, I wanted to get that on there without covering up too much of my mushroom. And then, what else do? I know I need to ink up those edges like I did on the other side and add my number. And so I'm looking for something to add my number with. Oh, first I want to go around. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use one of those Sharpie, I'm not sure. I think that's the gel one maybe, that I go around my words, my prompts there, and then I'm going to grab my, I can't remember what it is. It's a super thin, it's a 0.3 micro tip pen that I'll additionally add some accents to. So like I said, I have brought in black pen in quite a few ways here. That pen, I think maybe it's a Pentel too. I'm not sure. I'll link it below. So I get that, and then I'm going to write my number 7 up at the top to show me that this is week 7. And then I will ink up my edges. And I think that's going to be it for this card, y'all. I hope... Oh, no, it's not. I know what's coming next. Hold on. Hold your horses. That is not it. I decided I didn't have quite enough of some of the colors on there. And since I've got all of that paint sitting around up there on the desk, I'm going to grab some of that green one and put like some grassy moss kind of down at the bottom of both of these cards. And then on my prompt word side, I'm going to add some splatters of the green. So you'll see that here in just a second. I will be like, oh, why not some splatters? And then on my more decorative side with the 2 mushrooms, I'm going to add splatters of that yellow. And then I'll be calling this one done. I couldn't let this go without a little bit of splatter. It's been my jam as of late. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you are going to play along. Whether you pull your own prompts or use mine, make sure if you share it on social media, use the hashtag Crafty Hope Prompts. You are welcome to tag me as well at Crafty Hope on all social media. And let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see y'all later this week with my project with these prompts. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.